We are Steve and Jill. Together, we've been buying and reselling land since the 90s.
Our data-centric approach leaves our buyers asking, how can you sell it so cheap?
Here on the Land Academy Show,
We answer that and more. I'm Stephen Jack Butella.
And I'm Jill DeWitt, and this is the Land Academy Show.
This is episode number 1938, and today we are talking in depth about the Land Academy bucket system, and I'll explain that in great detail, and also how to build a lifelong fortune by consistently investing in land.
You know, I talked about that last night at a live webinar for people looking at joining Land Academy. If you were there, thank you very much. We had so much fun. It was much shorter this time. It was only 2 hours. But I want to answer everybody's questions. It was really fun. But we talked about, you know, how learning to buy and sell land, as you and I have proven, you before me, proven that for decades, you know, this could keep food on the table.
Yeah.
And so the conversation came up about, like, can I get my child involved? And I think it was Casey, one person said, heck yeah, like I've got my 9-year-old, you know, doing land deals. And so they're learning the value of this and, you know, how to make money.
What percentage of women were asking questions versus men? Because I know this is your
That's a really
third
good
or fourth
question.
or fifth time doing this. And I know, you know, we don't continually do stuff if we don't feel like we're helping. And you're obviously continuing to do this. So
Thank you. I'm going to go with about 50-50. So it's like, I don't know what's happening right now, what shift is happening on the planet, or maybe it's me or maybe it's us, but I am getting a great feedback, and I'm seeing so many more women investors
that's good.
come into this, and I'm so excited. It's awesome. And Land Academy Ladies is coming back next month.
Maybe that's why.
Yay! It's cool.
Hey, I hope you're also enjoying our 2023 weekly show. This is, I think, our third show where we've gone from a daily show to a weekly show. And as far as the numbers go, they're much better. They are. I just checked right before we sat down to record.
Cool.
And on YouTube and on audio, the numbers are better.
Okay.
Each week, we answer questions from our Land Academy Discord forum, review land acquisitions from our weekly Thursday member webinar, and take a deep dive into the 2 land-related topics that are requested, again, on our Discord channel.
Yep.
Let's take a question posted by one of our members on the Land Academy Discord online community. If you want a sneak peek of our Discord channel, please go to landinvestors.com.
Or landacademy.com. It's there also.
It's in both places now, and kind of peruse it. And it's free. You know, it's read only. You can see what the community is doing in real time.
Yep. So Probicorn says, I'm reviewing my spreadsheet before uploading to offers to owners. I look up at ParcelFact and I found out most of my offer prices are much lower than the assessed value, like 20 to 25% of the assessed value, and sometimes 10 to 15%. Is it a common practice? I know we try to buy property under value, but when the owners look at my offers and then compare my property to their tax bill, they would just laugh at it and never call back. What are your experience? I love this.
So assessor value, this is a very good new person question. It's been coming up through the years, and the very honest truth of it is in my soul. I looked at this when I started too. Mm-hmm. How can assessed values, what's the relationship, let's just start there, between assessed value
and real value
and market value,
yeah,
and then the actual price that we offer? And obviously the offer price has to be lower than the market price for us to stay in business.
Right.
But what does that have to do with the assessed value? Nothing.
Exactly.
The assessed value, and this is hard for new people to digest, and I'm really glad you asked this question because we haven't talked about it in a while, and it just makes common sense that, you know, if you look at online and you look at any house anywhere, and you ask yourself, well, what's this house worth? It's pretty easy to go on either side of the house and look at what the values are of those houses, maybe the history of how many square feet they are, and you can start down the data rabbit hole of assessing what any given house is worth. In fact, there's algorithms out there right now that do it for you pretty effectively, especially because there's a bunch of algorithms. You can average those out and get a really good value for what the property is worth. With land, that's just not the case. You can't look at a parcel on either side, look at the activity. Maybe it hasn't sold since 1960. There's all kinds of reasons that valuing land's harder. So what do? We look at the assessed value as a natural course of trying to figure out real value, because every piece of land has an assessed value. And it's almost always incorrect. Assessors don't really care as much about rural vacant land, especially as they do properties that are improved with higher values, because the taxes are higher. And people's interest is more focused on improved property. Assessed value, again, has nothing to do with market value. The market value of that property is set by what people are willing to pay. And the only way you can do that is to look at completed sales and active sales. Average all that stuff out in a place like where the zip code where the property is, or whatever. We teach that in Land Academy. So the message I'm really trying to send here very, very clearly is, please forget about assessed value. And then you go on to say, but when the owner will look at my offer and then compare it to the actual assessed value on their tax bill, they'll just laugh. So that will never happen. I can tell you, in the 16 or so thousand deals that Jill and I have done, I don't recall anyone ever saying, hey, my assessed value is 30,000. You guys offered me 20.
It has come up. No, it has come up. And what's interesting, you just have to, I just explain a little bit of what you explained very lightly, not that much for the seller, but I kind of go, let's look at your house, shall we? Let's see what your house is assessed at. And it's always so off and so different,
That's a great way to handle that.
And it's a year, and I explain them too, like, hey, especially with property, with land, it's often a year or two behind. All assessor data is often a year or two behind. It takes something for them. There's got to be some trigger, like a sale, for them to go in and reevaluate that. And then it's really just a gauge too. And I tell them, it varies all over the country. It's often just a gauge to, collect taxes. That's what they're trying to do with it here, is they base their taxes off the assessed value. So anyway.
And if you go from county to county, state to state, or
all
anywhere, the methodology is completely different from county to county and state to state. And so the further apart the property is in general geographically, the different concept they use to assess property and then apply tax. And so you just need to forget it. As counterintuitive as that is, that number is just sitting there.
Here's a good
question.
question.
Every property, yeah.
I'm glad you asked it, because it does come up, and it's important to know, just to know, like, why am I ignoring this? That's why.
Like, for instance, assessed values in California are really, really high. They still have nothing to do with the actual value of the property. Look, here's an example. In California, assessed values are set by a percentage of the most recent sale. So if I go buy a new property in California, and we all know California's property values are more expensive than the rest of the country, then I get a new assessment automatically of, I think, 1.25% of the property that some small percentage, between 1% and 2%. It constantly changes. That's just not the case, like, let's say in Michigan, where there's a millage rate that's applied, which is very complicated, even by today's standards, a complicated equation to figure out how much taxes you're going to pay. Completely two different markets, totally different ideology on how they assess taxes and send you a tax bill. Today's first topic is the Land Academy bucket system explained.
I was just thinking about that. It's like talking about assessed values. It's not. I never want to talk about it again. I hope that you're talked out.
Jill's not. These kinds of topics are not Jill's favorite.
No, it's just my answer is forget about it. Let's look at what's really happening in the market. That's what you need to be doing. Period.
We've had in the past, before we made a big deal out of it, because I talk about it in the programs now, before people sit down to actually do a mailer. Hopefully they watch the Land Academy education program, specifically 3.0. And I say, please forget about this assessed value situation, because we've had people in the past, members, come back and say, well, I offered 13% of the assessed value, and I didn't buy any property.
Like, hold on, that was a little hot.
Which
It was
is-
coming in way too hot.
Which is really, really, this is great. I'm glad you asked the question.
Yeah.
The Land Academy bucket system is something that I flippantly and on the fly came up with during one of our
Career paths.
Was it career path?
Yeah, it was career path.
It's not something I sat down and thought about. It's
think.
something that I think Jill and I do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I know we do. We've been doing it for a lot of years anyway.
Just didn't have a name for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll have to tell you, well, here's the buckets. Bucket one is, fulfill your Land Academy typical deal scenario. Buy whatever you define that as. For a lot of people, it's buy for $5,000, sell for 10. For us right now, it's buy for 30, 40, 50, sell for 100, 80, 90, 100, 110, or maybe more. It's been like that for probably a year or so. And it'll probably go up and change with the market as it changes. So bucket one is whatever that acquisition criteria that you set for yourself, and you find a target area to send mail using the systems that we have in the program. That's bucket one. As fast as you can buy it, and as fast as you can sell it. Sure.
Okay, give me numbers.
Buy for 30, sell for 90.
You think it's bucket one?
Yeah. Buy for 30, sell for 80, 90.
Okay.
Well, what do you think it is? Actually, what are we doing? Because I'm not sure.
Okay. Can we talk about the big? Okay. Can we? For me to grasp this, and I hope that there's at least one of you listening that can sympathize and understand like me. I need to hear all the buckets, and then I can
That's
put
what I was
numbers in
going to
them.
do. That's
Okay,
bucket
got it.
one.
Okay, got it.
Bucket one is execute the system, buy and sell as fast
Very
as you
easy and
can.
fast.
Yeah. That should be your bread and butter. Hopefully you do a few of those a month,
Okay.
maybe more. Bucket two is I've got a property that came back in. Let's say I offered $30,000. By the way, and this is what's really, really important to take away from this segment of the podcast, I don't do bucket-based mailers. We send it all out the same way we price it. And then when they come back, we look at each individual deal and we say, yeah, I would love this deal. No way I'm not doing this deal at any price, or just like we do on the Thursday call. And at some point, we assign a bucket to it based on the land that comes back. So bucket two is, I love this property at $30,000 and they accepted our offer. If it were bucket one, we'd sell it at $80,000 and take the money and shove it back into the system and go and continue to do it. But I don't think so. I think this property, for a lot of reasons, is maybe it's zoned for something very specific, like a mobile home park, which is unusual to find. So we're going to take some different steps. We're going to buy it. But we're going to take some different steps and put it into a second bucket where we know it's going to take longer to sell. We know it's going to take more work, but maybe we sell it for $200,000 or $300,000 instead of 80 or 90. That's bucket two. Bucket three is, and I'm not a fan of bucket three, is something that, and there's a certain personality type, usually in Texas, that loves bucket three property, where you buy a big piece of property, you know you can subdivide it, and you know you can sell it on terms. So you start down this long 2 to 5 year path where you get investors and you buy a big piece of property, and that becomes your business model. And for some people, not for us, it's great. I mean, we have people in career path. We have bucket three people in career path every single run. That's what they've been doing for a long time already. Anyway, they found out about Land Academy and they want to learn about the mail. That's a typical bucket three person.
Yeah.
I still love bucket one, and I know Jill does too. If Jill had her way, she would have bucket one property only, and that's it.
I think everything's so. The main thing is it's about how you're doing the transaction, the speed, and how you look at it, I think, and what the end goal is for each property. Sometimes I feel like we have buckets 4, 5, and 6. Like so you think I'm kidding? I know.
What's bucket 4?
Well, bucket 4 is like a random. Well, bucket 4 might be. Here's bucket 4. Bucket 4 is Steven coming in my office saying, "Did you look at this property? We can't sell it."
Oh yeah. Well, yes.
And then I go, "But we have to sell it." There'll be another one. He goes, "Well, then fine. I'm not letting it go for less than fill in the blank." It's like his make me move number. So that's bucket 4.
No, I think that's bucket 2.
Oh, okay. All right.
And we have a bunch of bucket 2 property now. And I'll tell you what's great about bucket 2 is you know it's going to take longer to sell it. You price it at, or even maybe in some cases above retail.
Right.
You're fully prepared that you won't get an offer for, let's say, a year, but then you get an offer.
Right.
and somebody buys it. And it's not, but it's very difficult to do bucket 2, in my opinion. Bucket 2 deals and certainly bucket 3 deals, if you're not the entire time in the background doing bucket 1 property to pay your bills. Mm-hmm. So it takes some balance. This is, again, we brought this up one time and it's just stuck. So people are still talking about the buckets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's easy to think about it like that. It's good. That's really good. Why are you looking at me for? Like I see them all the same way. I don't differentiate like that. So, and I certainly don't need to hang on to them because I know there's going to be more great property. So that's the funny thing. Remember, we haven't said that in a while. We used to tell everybody the last thing you want to do is go look at your property. Because if you do, you won't want to sell it. And that's what really happens.
Jill loves bucket 1 property because she's a career corporate salesperson. And so she needs to sell something. And it works out great for me because I don't get up in the morning needing to sell something. I get up in the morning needing to analyze something, or I don't feel right, or making some system better. Mm-hmm. And she gets up saying, all right, I got to sell these properties, or I'm going to buy a bunch of properties, or why is my phone not ringing every single minute?
True.
So, and I say that with the biggest compliment ever, because if we were both analysts, nothing would get done. No deals would get done at all. We'd be bored. Is that what you said?
We'd be boring. Could you imagine? What kind of friends do we have? We're both, I'm a data analyst. I'm a data analyst too.
Yeah.
Well, nice knowing you.
That's good. I'll see you next year.
Exactly.
Let's take a look at one of our favorite land acquisitions from our weekly Thursday webinar.
In County, Georgia, 5.22 acres. We have access, affordable, alive. Nope.
No?
Hold on a moment. The husband passed on. The land is in an estate trust, but the wife is alive and wants to sell. We need to double check in Georgia. If it's an automatic thing, the wife may or may not know.
If it's in a trust, yeah, that's what it is.
She may or may not know. So that's okay. That's a helper with a phone call to her attorney who can help her with this. And by the way, the attorney, if you're going to get the attorney involved in this, by the way, ask if the attorney can close a deal for you, because that would be cool. And they would like that.
And if the estate has any money left in it to pay him or her.
Oh, that's a good idea. There you go. So, all right. Purchase price, $10,500. Thinks we could sell it for $35,500. Large piece. I'm already worried. I see there's a power line running through the western side of the property. Is that a deal breaker or a bargaining chip? I have 3 things so far at me right now, Joshua. So I'm just telling you, I'm reaching for my FIFA cards. I'm holding both of them right now.
So I pull this up just so you know what goes on in the mind of an old crusty man. I pull this up and I see that this is all built around really good, built up properties everywhere, a couple of vacant lots. That's okay. Great access. What's wrong with this property? Why is it still like this? Because it looks great and the price looks great.
The only thing
So
that's
the question is, now we're going to dig deep and we're going to find out what's wrong.
at least is better than that one.
Floodplain's okay. What I hope the answer is it just leftover because this guy was older and his wife now has it and they just want to get rid of it? If that's the case, I'm in. But I don't think that's the case at all.
Now I'm holding one FIFA card right now. And I will show it in a minute.
The answer is this. So the question you have to ask yourself is, a lot of this property is in this easement. So you will own and pay for infinitely as the end user of this, the right to look at that.
Hey, will you check the legal? Just make sure there's nothing funky in there.
That's the bad news. The good news is you got a bunch of usable property here. A lot of it, actually. A ton of usable property here. So maybe Mrs. Widow, you can pull a Sam here and say, I thought it was worth $10,000, but really we're buying half the property because this is all in an easement. So what do you say? $5,000, we call it a day.
Ironically, they paid $4,600 for it.
There you go. We toggle back.
When was that?
Toggle.
2000.
There we go. And there
There
it
you
They
is.
tried to sell it and
But
couldn't.
look it was him. What's the deal here? You put it from his name to his name. Oh, that was probably it. I love it. You're like, well, the mail hit.
He's like, I'm gonna go run errands. I'm like, oh, perfect.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Trying to find what these value of these houses are just to get a gauge. 179,000 in 2016. I would buy this. I would buy it.
For 5.
Period.
Did you buy it for 10?
Yeah, I would buy it for 10, but I'd try to get it for 5 because of the easement.
Oh, well, hold on a moment. Don't forget, we're not even sure we could transfer it.
Well, we don't know if we can transfer it. And honestly, you don't know if it's usable because now you've got a pretty narrow piece of dirt. And I'm not sure, it looks like it's okay. Just looking at it. Like this is usable because this is usable and this is usable. You just need to confirm all this. Sid, this is look at what Sid Dean writes here. He was on.
Got a hate call and a signed contract all on the same day.
That's just how it is.
What a business. Isn't that great? Yeah. I swear, when the hate calls come in, I'm like, yeah, we priced it right. All right, sit tight.
Yeah, I got a couple validation calls where they're like, you offered me like a third of what it's worth. And it's like, perfect.
Yep,
What I was
great.
aiming for.
Totally. Like, woo. Did you know Land Academy is now reopened and landacademy.com has a refresh? Yay! So if you've been following us, the site has got a beautiful facelift. We're very excited. It's much easier to navigate. And I think you'll see I'm excited about all the great things that have come in this year. So go check out landacademy.com. Check all the places that you can, see where we're communicating. You can get to the podcast. You can, read more about Career Path and some of the exciting things we've got coming this year too. 2023 is going to be great for us.
Let's take another question posted by one of our members on the Land Academy Discord online community again. If you want a sneak peek of our Discord channel, please go over to landinvestors.com. I guess we have it now.
Or landacademy.com.
Landacademy.com. It's free.
Yeah. So Chuck M. wrote, has anyone else experienced this for their recent red, yellow, green tests? The problem I'm finding with realtor.com data is that it only goes back 1 month. If I compare this to the active/sold historical data on Zillow, such as 6 months, 1 year, etc., the realtor data gives me a much lower score than Zillow because it's only 1 month of data. The red, yellow, green test does not seem to work as well without comparing more historical data.
More data.
Yep. In addition, the real estate market as a whole is slowing, so days on market is increasing. So only 30 days is not enough data to accurately do a red, yellow, green test, in my opinion. It's very unfortunate that Redfin moved the ZIP historical data.
This is once in a while, not once in a while, more than half the time, people ask these brilliant questions at the beginning of their career, where I say to myself, this person's going to do amazingly well throughout their career if they stick with it. And this is one of those questions. He's questioning my methodology about how to do a mailer and how to price a mailer and the red, green, yellow test, which I think is the greatest thing ever. Lots has changed in the last 12 months with these websites to the point where I'm going back and re-recording or putting addendums into the actual education package. And he caught this change. One of the realtor.com only looks at comparison values, sold comps. They only go back 1 month and you can't move it. It's not a lever on the website. For whatever reason, they only want you to see, they want you to keep focused on what's for sale, probably because you have a better chance of buying something. Zillow gives you a sliding scale. You can look at 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, depending on what you feel is appropriate because of market conditions. I teach in the program to use Zillow for the red, yellow, green test for that reason, because more data in anything that you're looking at. I don't care if you're a healthcare scientist, you want a bigger sample. You want a much larger sample to get as much data as you possibly can to get those averages and those means and whatever you're trying to solve for into a group that you can analyze. And looking at real estate data is no different. Please stick with the program as I deliver it, especially chapters 3 and 4. About finding finding places to send mail, and then actually doing a mailer and pricing it with Zillow.
I would like to comment on questioning your methodology.
Oh, Jill does that. I can't get through noon before Jill's questioning my methodology on everything.
When Chuck does it, it's a great thing. When I do it, it's not a great thing. When was the last time you said, Jill, I am so glad that you sat me down and are questioning my methodology today?
I think it was when I wanted a second date.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't question that methodology because I knew that was smart. There's other things that I
Oh,
definitely
do tell.
question.
What? Do
No,
tell. I'd love to hear this, and so would everybody else now.
It's okay. Like, I don't know. I have to think of something good right now. But there's some things that have come up, and I'm like, I'm gonna remember that one.
One of the things Jill's going to inspire us about at the end of the show here is how to work with your spouse, how that works, what it really takes to work with your spouse.
My friends question my methodology on that one.
Oh, I don't never question it at all. I think it's the greatest idea. You know, you should run out and work with your spouse.
Yes, me too. Talk about easy. You guys can keep the same schedule. It's awesome. If you don't spend enough time together, you should do this.
Wow. SatiricalJill.com.
I know.
Today's second topic is how to build a lifelong fortune by consistently investing in land. And I should go on to say, like we have, and like many, many, many members have in our group, and who have
Been with us since day one.
Been with us since day one and gotten so good at it and wealthy at it. They're gone.
They're dark.
They've graduated and they're on to great stuff.
But they pop up again, and that's the best thing. I mean, the people that have been with us this whole time, and they're like, "We got it. I don't need anything. I'll see you later." They pop up now and then with some. Usually, it's an amazing deal, which is really nice, and that I think was the ultimate goal here.
Well, they come back for deal funding.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's what Jill means.
Yeah. So they'll pop up going, "All right, I haven't heard from you. You haven't heard from me in like 2 years. I'm here. I'm still doing my thing. I just got somebody's portfolio.
Yeah.
They're retiring.
Yeah.
I need some help taking it down, with the best way to do it and financially, how to get this done, how to eat this elephant." And I love it.
Before the second topic, let's take a look at another one of our favorite land acquisitions from our weekly Thursday member webinar.
Edgefield County, South Carolina, 0.65 acres, accepted offer price, $500. Offered thinking they would pass, but they accepted. I love it when that happens. You're like, you know what? Okay, fine. You like, they won't get off your phone. They're just like, what would you give me? Like, fine, $500. They'll just like, I'll take it. And you're like,
Damn.
well, shucks. Now do I even want it for $500? So, okay, this is good.
Yikes. This is an example, Joe. Perfect.
Oh yeah.
Perfect example.
This is where you,
I'm gonna screenshot this. This is the screenshot of the week right here.
this is would you pay $500 for this? You're like, I actually don't know. I might not.
Oh, I would not.
Like, I'd rather go out to dinner than to deal with this. Because what am I going to do? Now it's in my inventory. Great. It's out off their plate. Now it's mine. And do I want to go through all the motions and then trying to sell this? This is hilarious. So if you can't see, it's like the
Look at the structure.
the wetland stuff there, but there's a dip there. It's not out there. Isn't that funny? Okay, so here's a scoop. I made an offer on the property, hoping the neighbors to the left, right, or in front of it would buy it for $2,000. County doesn't care about building on wetlands, but an alternative septic system would be needed. It oddly meets the setback requirements as well. I know it's a low value property, but I'm wondering, what do you guys typically do with cheaper leftover property?
And he's right though. These properties are all right in the flood zone. Like not a flood zone, the floodway.
Yeah.
They're in the river.
Yeah. Maybe are they built up? They've got to be built up.
Houses.
I might change my answer here.
It's South Carolina, North Augusta. This is hilarious.
I just changed my answer. I would buy this for $500 all day. I don't know what's going on. Like this is a utility box in a regulatory floodway.
Oh.
I would buy it. I'd put a sign on it.
$2,500.
These are not
Mm-hmm.
cheap. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks less like that.
A lot that paid $5,000 in 1985. The property was built in 2002.
For that one. Wow.
The house across the street is worth $100,000 in 1986. The one next to it.
That
These
was
people have lived
dirt.
there for a long time.
They don't move. Yeah.
I would buy this. This is how you accumulate wealth.
Okay.
$365,000 in 2021. And you're going to buy the infill lot across the street for $500. Welcome to Land Academy.
You know what? We all know, well, $500. What do you got to lose?
That's what I think.
Yeah. All right.
Title's going to be more than the title amount cost to get the deal done will cost more than the actual piece of property
And you can say, I own a half acre in North Augusta.
on the water.
Uh-huh.
And I would have a serious Jill type conversation with the county about usability. Like, look, these houses were built in that are adjacent to it in 2002. Geez, they built it right in a floodway.
That's how you avoid the HOA. Don't let them see what's going on back there. That's awesome.
All kidding aside, check use, because this could just be a 2-year problem for you. How do you consistently create wealth for yourself in the land business? Well, I can get all nebulous about this. Or I can just simply say this, which Jill appreciates when it's more simple.
Thanks a lot.
If you learn how to do this, you give yourself the right amount of time, let's say 3 to 6 months, to really learn Land Academy and spend time on Discord talking to other people who have been through it, who are going through it and succeeded at it. Mm-hmm. And you get yourself on a mailer schedule.
Yeah.
And you never stop that mailer schedule, regardless of what happens. In every mailer, you're constantly learning. You will become generally wealthy unless you're missing huge parts of this. You will at some point get a consistent pipeline filled and buy and sell a lot of land.
I talked about that last night. There was someone on the call last night that said we're now in a system. We're doing 1,740 units, something like that, a week. Period.
Oh, that's good.
We have it all plotted out. This is what we're doing. I'm like, okay, you can't lose. You will not lose if you just keep doing it. And then what's going to happen too is, like with us, it's just going to keep, the deals will just keep coming from the new mailer, and then your old mailer will start picking up steam. You're going to get, after a year of this, you're going to be looking at yourself going, did we even mail that county? And things come back at the end of the year. They come back in the summer. It just come back. We have stuff over 10 years that they come back.
I spent, because of the way interest rates have dramatically increased over the last 12 months, they've doubled. And I mean mortgage rates, not interest rates. When this happens, commercial real estate becomes available for purchase. People who own, let's say, trailer parks or strip malls or any type of commercial real estate that it can be analyzed on a capitalization rate. Because of that increased cost of capital, it's very common for commercial real estate to be on funky type loans. So there's variable rate loans that are tied to interest rates, or 30-year amortization loans that really only have a 5-year term. So at 5 years, you have to renegotiate the loan. And of course, you're going to do that in prevailing rates at that time. So the whole result of that, when interest rates go up like this and don't really show any signs of going down, at least not this year, when people have a marginally good deal, let's say it's a trailer park, we'll use that as an example, that extra interest rate, especially, it doubled. Their cost of capital has doubled in 12 months. Their rent didn't double. Their operations didn't get incredibly much better to offset that extra expense. Mm-hmm. They sell. Exactly. They panic and sell. And so I ran a whole analysis on what it takes to buy a trailer park, and right next to it, I ran an analysis on what it takes to be successful at buying and selling land. Mm-hmm. And buying and selling land in 2020 is exactly the same as it is in 2023. Why? Because we don't have a cost of capital. Right. And so to make things even better for our own situation, for land investment in 2023, the people who do have a lot of commercial real estate or anything else that is tied to an interest rate, like let's say a house with a variable rate mortgage, are going to run out of money. And if they have extra land laying around, that's one of the first things they're going to go sell. And if they have an offer stuck to their refrigerator for you to buy it, whether it's from this year, this month, or like Jill said, 3 years ago, they're going to call. Yeah. We know that because we've been sending out mail since the early 2000s, and we're getting these calls. Mm-hmm. And we're getting these emails now way more than we were a year or two ago. Exactly. So if you're, and that's the result of consistently sending mail and consistently creating wealth. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've ever had a bad year buying and selling mail. buying and selling land.
No, isn't that interesting? Because I was talking about that because, everybody's really worried about recession and things like that. And they're like, how's it going to affect the land business? I'm like, this is not my first rodeo, not my second, not your third. We've been, and I can say I watched our peers, other investors not make it through, especially the last one, like 9, 10, around there. And I felt really bad. Thank goodness, you set us up correctly. And that's another point about this too. Not one of the things that we do is we buy these properties. I'm not running around with contracts. I'm not assigning things. I own this property. And we bought it right. And we bought it, so we know we're going to make money on it no matter what happens. Maybe I'm not going to 3x my money. Maybe I make a 90%. Big deal, because I'm fine with that. We have consistently proven it, and I think that's why a lot of people are here with us, for decades kept food on their table thanks to land. And we've done other things. Have I thrown renovations in there, or you threw renovations in there? I loved it. You hated it. It was funny. But then my joke now is I never worked so hard for $35,000 in my life. So
She means renovating houses.
Yep, not doing that again. But yeah, we've done renovations, commercial properties, office buildings, all kinds of other things that we've done. But and in the land space, that's great. When you put something on it, it's not our forte.
Yeah, and that's just because we're land people.
Yeah.
There's so many people that would disagree with the. There's still people in this world that do really well with office buildings.
Yeah, I don't have the stomach for it.
Just read that office buildings are at 50% occupancy, and
Yeah.
they're at 80% occupancy a year ago.
Yeah.
This is all because of cost of capital going up, which is, the reason that the feds are raising interest rates like this pretty consistently, and they're actually going to raise them again about a quarter point today if they haven't already. They probably have. Is because inflation, it's that way to hedge off inflation. The fact that eggs are more expensive than they were a year ago. Well, what caused inflation? The Fed's generally printing too much money. So it's this cycle that goes on with fairly uneducated politicians that I won't go into now, but actually I'll never go into it. Our job is to not judge these people.
Thank you. We all think.
Our job is to sit down, run the numbers
Right.
without emotion, and say,
Yeah.
here we go again. Now, how am I going to change what I do? How am I going to change my mailer? What am I going to do with my business partner? How are we going to make some changes to actually capitalize on the fact that the market's changing?
Yep.
And forget about any emotion or politics or any of that.
Exactly.
That's great, Jack. I don't have $300 million like you guys seem to have every time an acquisition comes up to go write a check. And I realize that, and so does Joe. That's why we put together Discord and landfunding.com. I think that's the name of the website.
Yep.
And so we have a massive community of people that have a lot of money because they've been through this too. Some of them have gray hair, some of them don't, where you can go to them and if you have a good real estate deal and fund your deal. And it's not tied to interest rates. It's equity funding. It's not debt funding. And travel forward until you don't need their funding anymore.
And these people are not they're not your typical, lender, if you will. They're people in our community.
They're your partner.
Like me.
Who understand land.
Exactly.
And who are educated about how to buy and sell land and how inexpensively you can do it, just like you.
Yep. They might be 6 months, a year, 3 years ahead of you, sitting on a bunch of cash going, yeah, that is a good deal.
Yep.
I remember working in that area a while back, or I didn't even know this was going on over here, whatever it is. That's a great deal. I will absolutely give you the money for that.
Yep.
It's awesome. I love it.
Jill, you have something inspirational to share, I think? Maybe not so inspirational.
I know. So I want to talk a little bit today because this is coming up a lot, and it came up last night in the live webinar that I did about, I'm noticing this shift with more and more females and more couples, and I love it. It was really sweet. Oh gosh, is it Melinda? I think we were talking about it, and she was saying, how much we have helped her because she and her husband are in this together, like us, and listening to us and hearing us, and when we talk about, which I want to talk about a little bit with you right now, some of the things that we had to do to survive and work together and, you know, and be supportive and move forward. It's hard with your spouse. You have different ideas. You have, you know, it's like, whether it's not your spouse, you know, your spouse, your partner, your best friends, anyone that you're really, really close with, if you're saying, we should do this together, this is the greatest idea. It all sounds romantic and great in the beginning until you realize you both want to work on the same thing or you both don't want to work on the same thing.
There's nothing romantic about working with your spouse.
Oh, stop it.
It doesn't sound romantic in the beginning to me at all.
Oh, well, you're a guy. I don't know. I know some guys that think I've talked to guys that said my dream would be to have my wife come in and do this with me. And I think that's
Want
great.
me to translate that for you?
Go right ahead.
My dream is to have my wife work for me.
Oh. I am not even going to comment on that right now. At all. Because you kind of got your dream, didn't you?
No, that's exactly the opposite of what I got.
All right.
It may have been like that for 14 minutes, but
Okay.
and that was never my intention.
Thanks,
I'm
that's
really
great.
just horsing around.
There we go. No, but it's so, I love it. I love that we are attracting and helping couples do this. And I was thinking, like, if you could think of one thing that has made this work for us, please, and share it. What is your one thing?
I'm going to answer your question, but I do have something to follow up
Okay,
with.
go ahead.
Jill and I, the reason this works at all, and for how many years has it been? Geez, it's been
14?
Yeah, 14 years. The reason this works is because Jill and I, way out in the future, she and I can see what we want, and it's the same thing. And I didn't know this when we started working with each other. Honestly, it was just dumb luck, period. We didn't develop this after we met or started working with each other or any of that. She wanted to be very successful at and I found out way later that she was at whatever she was doing. And wherever she worked, she showed up in the morning. She met her goals, her sales goals in most or all cases, and smashed it. And was constantly the best person in the office, selling and reselling and all of that. So, you know, and I was too. I was very successful at the stuff that where I wanted to work. I was very successful at it. So you have to have that long vision. And the first thing I would do, if you're considering working with your spouse, or even if you've worked with your spouse for a while, is get out of the office and sit down somewhere and say, where do you see all of this in 15 or 20 or 30 years or 5 years, and see what they say. You're going to be shocked at how it's not the same, I think.
Do you think you can get them on the same page?
Yeah, but see, so this is a big, huge difference between you and I. A massive difference. I don't want to sway anybody or beat a path for them so that they start following down a path that I want them to follow down, where I think it's better. I don't think that's healthy in a relationship, professional or socially. I don't want anything to change. I want it to be the building blocks of it to be built before I get there.
Well, what if there's a way to get each other's goals separately? What if my goal is to have this? It's like, let's just, for example, my goal, maybe your goal is retire early and my goal is to have my beach house. Maybe we could do both.
Yeah, I think that's if you want to set goals and then work together, however you work independently or together to hit those things, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, good.
That's fantastic.
Right.
But to change somebody's
no, you're not going to change your mindset.
Work habits or your mindset or hours
That'll
that they
never
work.
Yeah.
People are never going to change.
Very early on, Jack taught me this phrase and I never forgot it. Here's a definition of compromise. Great, now nobody's happy.
That's right.
That's true.
I've used that 100 times since then.
Yes, you have. Do you know what my number one thing is? My number one thing, if you're going to sit down right now and you want to work with your spouse and you want to make this successful, stay out of the other person's lane. Period. I think you need to, even if you, like I talked about in the beginning, you both want to work on the same things and you both not want to work on the same things. So you know what? Divide it up. Make it fair. Go, all right. Because there's stuff like even within us, right? I'm like, look, I hate doing this, but I hate doing that more. So if you'll take that on, I'll take this on. You can have those conversations and be like, you know what? Great, thank you. And then once you have that, and we've done this. We haven't
We
done
still
it.
do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a little while, but we would take a sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle. This is true. We still do it. Okay, you're marketing, you're O2O, you're this, you're that. We divide up responsibilities in our really it's our other companies. The land is just, it kind of really comes natural for us, the land part. But when you agree, that's on like data. Why would I even question it, by the way? His data, his picking areas, his pricing offers.
Well, see, you know that now. That's the thing. We have the luxury of hindsight.
Well, yeah, but somebody's going to naturally be better at it, I think. I really do. And someone's going to be naturally better at answering the phones, getting the deals done, things like that. The nice thing too is, though, because of us and our experience now, you listen to me when I say, hey, I know you've got a mailer going out. Can you please roll in this area and this size? And you're like, sure, fine. I don't, whatever you got working on, great. Let's roll that into it too. But the part about staying in your lane, though, when you draw that line and you say your data, I'm the phone, whatever, the other person can't say, I want to do this too. I think I can do it better. You got to stay out of their stuff, because then you're going to fail if you don't. If you come along and critique the person, try to get all up in their business, try to do it better, try to change their process, that's not going to work.
What Joe's describing is a boss.
No.
If you think that you're going to be the boss of your wife and in a workplace, you can stop right now. In fact, you can turn this podcast
You think
off.
you're going to be the boss of your wife in the home and with child raising?
And the same thing is the reverse. If your wife thinks she's going to sit you down at work and tell you what to do all day and have you deal with it,
yes,
then there's something wrong with you, not her. Listen, all kidding aside, in every single couple I've ever met, and usually people in business make this mistake. You can't just let it happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to work with her next week. She's quitting her job. She's put her in 2 weeks' notice. In 3 weeks, we're going to be working together. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
We're going to sit down together, and she's going to do sales, and I'm going to do acquisitions, and that makes sense to me. And
I need to rent a buyer.
I give you 1 week. You can't just let that happen.
Yeah.
Just like you can't let a mailer happen. You have to really manipulate a mailer, and you have to seek help out from Discord, all the education products that we provide, and sit down with yourself in a dark room and map all of it out. And so you have what you're really doing is building a sense of confidence. It's the same thing that happens with working with your spouse. You need to put some rules in place. Mm-hmm. Jill and I about 2 years ago decided to have a meeting. We call it a partners meeting. That's what it's called in our calendar. I think it's at 9:30 or 9:30 in the morning, like 3 days a week. Mm-hmm. And so all the stuff that goes on that she needs to talk about, if something's not on fire, she writes down, and so do I. Mm-hmm. And in this partners meeting, we talk about it. Mm-hmm. And do the meetings get heated sometimes? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But what it does is it stops her and me from barreling into each other's office to talk about something that's going to end up being entirely meaningless anyway. And then everybody wastes an hour talking about something or debating something that just has nothing to do with whatever.
Right.
So you can't just let it happen. You have to have a plan with some rules in place. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, this podcast, it's always been my baby.
Yep.
And she knows that.
Yep.
Now, she didn't in the beginning. She wanted to be all involved in the sound checks and camera angles and backgrounds and all of that.
And as you can tell, I lost every battle.
Just kidding. She's not happy. She's constantly, to this day, this podcast is like 8 years old.
I know.
Why is it so dark in here? Because it's dark in here. Because I'm dark. And if you look at Jill's stuff, it's all light and airy and fun, and because that's who she is.
Pretty. I have colors. Yes.
And so you got to let that stuff go. And we've all accepted it. But I'll tell you, getting that first deal done, and then maybe getting the first 10 deals done, all of it goes away. Not all of it, 95% of it, all this stuff goes away because everybody's got
feeling good,
confidence in their spouse now, confidence in themselves. The system works. We're consistently getting mailers out. Money's coming in. It's going out. It's coming in. And that's how you know it's going to work.
Yeah, I agree.
But you can't just say, yeah, let's
try this.
Yeah.
We got
I'll
this.
see you on Monday.
Everybody else does it. Jack and Jill do it. We can do this too.
Let's push our desks together and stare at each other all day.
Could you imagine?
Oh, we would last 20 minutes.
Oh, no.
20 minutes you and I would last
Yeah.
in the same. We just now can work in the same building.
True.
For years, we worked not in different buildings, in different zip codes.
Yes, this is true.
With different staff and different everything.
One of us had the home office and one of us went to the office, and that was it. Or remember the time we were on different floors?
Yeah.
That worked out, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah, but one of us would pop down to the other person's floor too much, so but that helps.
Here's my final thought. And this is not just working with your spouse. This is like living with your spouse. The concept of blame has no place in a relationship. And I learned this not because I wanted to, from my parents.
Keep going.
You can't blame somebody else. If a deal goes bad, deals go bad.
True.
We have bad deals, probably one or two a year, where stuff's still for sale. We have accumulated properties for sale that, they're either not priced right. It's not. We didn't buy. It's usually because I want to sell them for too much, but stuff goes wrong. Computers die. Cash flow is not what you expected.
We forget about it.
Can't blame.
Sometimes you just forget. Like, I still own that?
And what I've found over the years is this is a personality type. There's some people that just need to blame somebody, and if they're sitting next to the closest person's going to get blamed.
True.
And that sprouts from who knows where it actually comes from. It comes from some type of personal, I can't fail, or you got slapped on the wrist too many times when you spilled milk when you're a kid. I don't know where it comes from, but I know that blaming people for stuff that is not going well, it doesn't end well for anybody.
I'm still laughing at the thought of putting our two desks facing each other and how horrible that would go. Because invariably when someone leaves their desk, like, well, how come I'm the only one working? That would be, and it would be nonstop critiquing. You missed this on that call. Mm-hmm. You're like,
yeah. Can you imagine if I listened to your sales calls and then and you got done and hung it up and
you're like, well,
and
why?
I said,
here's what you should have done.
And then yeah. I don't know about that. About 13 minutes into that, you were talking about something that I don't think really had anything to do with land, Jill.
I think you should have done this. You could have been more efficient. You could have got it cheaper.
Right.
That's hilarious. All right, how about you? Jack, do you have something informational that you want to share with us today?
Your topic kind of rolls into mine.
Okay.
My Jack informational topic is as follows. What's the role of your emotion in your land career? And I would argue that the role for emotion in land is none. I think the more that you can check your emotion at the door when you're buying and selling land, especially if you're working with your spouse, the further and faster you're going to get. And is it possible? Sure, it's possible. Have I ever seen it? No. Even I get emotional about buying land because it's awesome. I love land. I get way too emotional about the sales price. Not in the beginning of my career. I just wanted to sell everything constantly. Now I'm like, maybe we should hold on to some of this property. It's really, we're getting it for 10% of what it's worth now. What's this going to be worth in, 25 years? Exactly. So I'm starting to have those thoughts which cross over into emotion. Is it effective to make money? No.
Right.
Is it effective to, for Jill to come to me and say, I don't think we got the best mailer yield out of this last mailer, that, it's not your best work.
You need to up your game, buddy.
And I expect you to, I expect more out of you, Jack.
Could you imagine? That's awesome. That's great.
Is that effective? No, it's ridiculous. It's emotional and silly, and it's going to, fireworks are going to happen after that.
Where was your head when this went out?
Yep.
Thanks a lot. Every single person wants to sell. Congratulations.
Right. 25 years of professional sales, Joe, and you can't sell this piece of land?
That would be awesome. That's great.
This is it?
You know what?
This is what I'm stuck with?
You know what? Our college freshmen could have priced this better.
Keep your emotion at check. Yeah, Tony Robbins does a whole thing on this.
Does he?
Yeah, he did like a huge 10-year thing about what's stopping you from where you want to be. He's famous for saying this. Your emotion.
You listen to Tony Robbins? That's good.
Sometimes.
I like that. That's really
I
good.
said this on Career Path once, and there was I don't know, it was a long time ago.
That's cool.
And people, there were two women in a partnership, in a business partnership, they lost it. They didn't lose it, but they had a lot to say. What do you mean? All the best deals I've ever done was because of emotion. And they were being emotional. And it's not gender specific. Trust me, it's not. Men express emotion in rage, which is still emotion.
Oh, and we love that. It's great. That's funny.
Join us next Wednesday for another interesting episode. You are not alone in your real estate ambition. We are Jack and Jill. Information
And inspiration.
to buy undervalued property.
We hope you found our content valuable and we appreciate your support. If you have not already, please check out our channel and hit the subscribe button.
And your comments and suggestions help us to create the content you're here for. Hitting the like button helps to support our channel's algorithm and gauge your interest for future shows.